Cool. Hi, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Port Queen Chronicles. Today on the podcast, we have Prashansa with us. And this particular podcast, I think a lot of you will be able to relate to because I think a lot of us jump into computer science because we hear after our 12th standard that, it has the best opportunities. So unknowingly, a lot of us get into computer science, which, as per our parents, provides us a good safety net. Now, that decision turns out well for most people, as I've heard, and it did for me as well. So today, the story is about how having these safety nets in life, right? Sometimes unknowingly, they allow you to do a lot better and experiment much more, which opens a lot of horizons for you. So to discuss that today, we have Prashansa with us. And through today's podcast, we'll be discussing about her journey of how she picked the computer science stream. Then she later went on to intern at Amazon. And another safety net during placements was she got an offer from Microsoft, which then enabled her to experiment with a couple of international opportunities. And lastly, while at a current job at Amazon Dublin, she has another safety net in terms of getting a PR there, and then which will enable her to do a lot more and experiment a bit more as well. So that is the agenda for today. And thank you so much, Prashansa, for taking out the time.
Yeah, thanks. Thanks for that introduction, and thanks for setting up this podcast. I'm excited to see where it leads us.
Awesome. So we'll start off with the very first, I think, part of our journey, which is very common to every, I think, Indian student out there pursuing computer science today, which is the decision to start with computer science, right? So, like, what was that journey for you? If you could go over that briefly.
So, standard Indian student studies hard, gets gets bullied by their parents for good marks, just like I was, just like everyone who's probably listening in. And then you are top of class, you love maths and physics are your favorite subjects because they make sense. You have good problem solving skills right at the earliest time of your life. Like you're what, 15, 16, you start preparing for JE, and everyone is in the IIT JE coachings and the competition, very well aware of how hard everything is. In Because of course our population makes it hard for us to compete and find good universities to study in. So yeah, for me it was, I didn't even take computer science in my 11th or 12th grade. I took physical education. I was always into sports, and it was, easy marks
Yes.
for your board examination, and the board examination results are the best. वरना आंटी जी को कैसे बताएंगे, है ना? Like, oh, our daughter got this many marks. So yeah, no, it's the same with everyone, and that's just the way it is. And it kind of trains you to work hard. It kind of trains you to um, take what you want and work hard for it. So for me, the decision to take computer science was when I was in what, year 17, when I graduate, and my dad saying, "Hey, take computer science. It's you have so many opportunities." But I was like, "Dad, I like physics. I like, what about mechanical engineering or maybe aeronautical?" You know. Also, at that time, as a woman, I was like, "Oh, there are not many women there. I'm gonna show these people. I'll be the woman in aeronautical engineering." Um, yeah, there was a lot of that growing up, actually. That, oh, even in the classroom I was like, oh, I'm a woman, and there's like two girls in the entire batch in your Fiji coaching class, and you're just like, oh, wait a minute, I'll show them that I'll be better than them in physics, because haha. And you're a kid, of course, it is what it is. So yeah, for me, computer science was my dad saying that, hey, what about computer science is the future, and if you're interested in mechanical, you can grow up and use computer science to advance the technology that is being used in those spaceships. Which, like, I don't know, fate or whatever it is. My older sister, she was given the same kind of guidance, and she is actually working with satellites. So as a computer science engineer, and I was like, okay, he was right. So
Mhm.
definitely it was my dad who was like, oh, take that. And I was like, okay, let's do it.
Awesome. So, I think looking back, would you say that it was a good decision, or maybe you could have gone the original with your original decision and it would have panned out better, like if you've ever pondered upon it?
I have pondered upon it, of course. I think it was a good decision, like definitely, because you have to remember having safety nets as you started um, this podcast with having safety nets gives you a sense of comfort because it 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 makes sense that if once you are where you once you're okay like again I guess this we'll come to that later in our conversation, but safety nets is very important because if I didn't take computer science, I wouldn't be in my college. If I didn't get into my college, I wouldn't get these opportunities. I wouldn't be here in Europe and have the space, the mental space to think about, oh, was this the correct time? I would always be like, financial pain, be like, okay, you're living paycheck to paycheck, and you won't even have that space to think about what you want to do
Hmm.
if you don't have financial safety nets or financial freedom. Because at the end of the day, these choices that our parents ask us to make are because of financial security in a way.
Makes sense. So I think has been my experience as well. So if you look at the job market today, it's very heavily computer science jobs, right? So wherever you go, people are looking for computer science engineers, and every other field, with all due respect, I think they may have their market in some pockets around the world. But globally, there's a very big rise in computer science engineers and the demand for computer scientists. So I think I got the same guidance. Most people today are getting the same guidance. So it really makes sense. And I think, would you even agree that at least when picking your major, I think you're still 18, just trying to figure out what to do. That's a good point to listen to your parents or elders, and I think go with their wisdom rather than, I think
I think
sticking to your guns at that time and, going for whatever you just wanted to do.
as long as so the parents' guidance is always that have a backup.
Hmm.
Even if you're doing what you want to do, even if you're sticking your guns, because I know a lot of people in my college, they did engineering in college. They were like, oh yeah, no, I am not doing this, and they're doing something else. They're in like production companies, or they have switched to consulting, and it's okay to make those choices as long as you know that there is a plan B in the back of your head to keep yourself financially secure. Because like unfortunately, India isn't one of those countries where the government will take care of you
Hmm.
like is the case in the West. Why people in the West are able to choose what they want to do and follow their passion, and you see all these coming of age movies where the main character's parents tell them, oh, don't do this, take a stable job, but then the main character is like, no, I'll be an artist, I'll be a musician. And all these are Western movies because the government in the West takes care of them. They have the money, they are not financially strain. But I feel like in India and in other countries where you don't have that financial security, yeah, of course, maybe your parents are financially stable, but still, you want to make something of yourself because you have to make something of yourself. You need that. It's to cater to your need, and that's why I think it makes sense to kind of have a plan B in your mind if, say, your passion doesn't work out, or have a side gig or something that pays your own bills.
Right. Makes sense. So I think having that safety net is very important, and you were able to create another one for yourself when you secured the internship from Amazon, right? I think that's an internship you get very early on, typically in the college placement cycle. So, how did that safety net enable you to do different things or try to experiment?
Actually, even before Amazon, in my second year of college, I did an internship.
That's
That was a campus internship. And that made me realize, wait, I like the money. So I like having my own and not asking my parents for money. And I was like, oh, wait, this is like just money lying there.
Hmm.
So I did the Amazon internship after that in my third year of college. And it was during COVID. So it was not really strictly of the internship experience that normal people would have. So yeah, it was definitely a completely different experience from what your normal internship would be like. And yeah, and then you do your internships, then there's placement season the next year. But yeah, it felt like almost like one single year just because of COVID, just because of lockdown.
Yeah. So I think the Amazon internship, right? So did that open up any avenues for you so that you could experiment? Like did that help in any way?
Not exactly, because as I said, it was COVID times.
Okay.
So you're working remotely. No one knows how to work remotely. I had an amazing mentor and an amazing manager.
Right.
They helped out and everything. All the equipment was shipped to me. Um, but it was not a time when you're actually in a place to experiment
Hmm.
because you were still again in COVID.
Yeah, makes sense. I think post that, despite what happened with I think Amazon, there was a couple of disruptions. I think that we discussed over call, but later you were able to secure SDE offer from Microsoft. I think one of the best companies out there for sure. It's a dream company for many, and again comes very early in the placement cycle. So, how was that experience like, and did that open up any further avenues for you to explore?
Ah, yes, yes. So, for Microsoft, it was, I did not expect it. I was like, okay, again, before Microsoft, I had like two other placement offers, which made me secure. Ah, at least I have a job. That's fine. Because see, the human brain is very smart.
Hmm.
So there's this anxiety in every one of us, which tries to think 5 steps ahead. So once you figure out a way to work with that anxiety, that the voice in your head which says, oh, what if this happens? Oh, you'll never get that job. Oh, you'll never be enough. And that voice inside your head, once you say get any placement, say you get an offer from Microsoft, you're able to tell that voice that, hey, I got an offer from Microsoft, it's fine. We have a job. So
Hmm.
then next, when I interviewed again for Amazon Dublin, it was just like, whatever. I have a job. It's fine. And then that kind of gives you a bit of confidence that makes you think from your frontal lobe instead of from your anxious part of the brain. And it's very, in a way, freeing to have a safety net and then use that to tell your brain that, hey, it's all right, don't be anxious. Because I think in interviews, especially, I've seen that a lot of smart people, like extremely smart people, some of the smartest people I've known, they're not able to perform under pressure of the interview because of that anxiety, because of the voice in their head, which makes you freeze.
Hmm.
And I'm sure it's happened with a lot of people. It's definitely happened with me in interviews that I've just frozen and been like, I I know the answer, but at the moment you can't think. And it's just like if you learn how to talk to the anxiety part in your brain, you can actually do much better than, I don't know, if you don't access it.
So was it ever on your I think mind that you want to go abroad, or was it just because you had the Microsoft offer, it enabled you to look out, explore, and then I think some these international opportunities I would say came into your life.
Ah, no, no. If you were to ask me in third year, hey, do you think you're gonna get a job abroad? I'd be like, not a chance. I am like, see, that imposter syndrome runs in every engineer that I know.
Yeah.
Like every good engineer I know, some of the smartest people, and they all have imposter syndrome. Again, it's that part of the brain which activates, which thinks 5 steps ahead. Because as engineers, we're trained to think 5, 10 steps ahead,
Yeah.
and we're good at that. We're good at problem solving. So we see a problem in our heads, and we're like, ah, no. is not possible. And then you just give up. You're like, whatever. So no, if you had asked me in third year that, oh, do you think in 2 years from now you'd be in Ireland living a completely European life? I'd say absolutely not. I'm not smart enough for that. No way. But then, yeah, you're right. Once I got the offer from Microsoft, and one of my closest friends just randomly sends me a link. It was Amazon Dublin, Berlin, and Luxembourg that had opened. And he said, I have applied, you also apply. I was like, okay, sure, why not? It's COVID, I have nothing else to do. Might as well just do it. And I applied, and the interview happened. And in the interview also, I kind of figured they wouldn't hire me because I was like, come on, they have probably billions of people like just applying randomly. So I just went with like being myself, not having any expectations, my anxiety completely down, and I got in, which was like surprising. It was like unexpected, and that was, yeah, luck. I'd say a big part of it is also luck.
So, I think one thing is, did you have any sort of pressure anywhere in your mind? I think you mentioned it briefly that because you had a safety net, it was cool. But even while interviewing, I think you also had an interview with Bloomberg in London. Then you had this Amazon Dublin interview. So I think anxiety, maybe not, but was there any sort of pressure? Okay, I have to nail this, or it was just very breezy that anyway I have a very good offer. Let's just see how it goes, and it's fine.
So no, of course, any kind of interview where you have to present yourself, where you have to, in a way prove that you're smart for the company. It of course brings in a sort of fear in yourself. If you look at the emotion that gets triggered, it's fear, a fear of how I'm going to be perceived, and that's very human for you to be fearful. So of course it was fear, but how I worked around it during those interviews was telling myself that, hey, it's okay, I have a safety net, I'm fine, I'm doing good. It's the positive reinforcement instead of the negative one that kind of helped me personally as a person. But yeah, no, of course there were so many rejections that at that point you're just used to it. You're like, it's okay, another rejection,
Yeah.
and like 100 other rejections that you've gotten, it's fine.
Got it. I think we'll take a slight detour here from the safety net part, but just try to understand more about your experience in Dublin as such, right? So you, I think, just like me and many other people, have been in Delhi, very near to your college, very near to your school. So you didn't really go anywhere, didn't spend much time in hostels or anything. So from that, like moving from that protected environment to going to a completely another country, and that also not a very, I would say, well-known country. I mean, there's not a lot of Indians there, right? Had it been London or America, it's still somewhere you expect to see Indians, but Dublin is something, some place very fresh for you. So how was that experience like transitioning there and settling in? And would you say that like was it a worthy experience? Like do you now look back at it and say, okay, that was probably the best thing that could have happened?
So like even before going, I'll start there. Even before going to Dublin, I'm like, what if I don't like it? The anxiety triggered like this. And what I did, I gave my GRE exam because I was like, if I don't like it, I'll go and do masters in the US because my sister is in the US right
Yeah.
now. Like, oh, I was scared. Like, of course I was scared. And like, what if I don't like it? What if the people are not nice and not inclusive? And what if like I knew about the climate here. So I was like, what if the climate makes me depressed? So I already gave my master's, sorry, my GRE to be able to apply for my master's before I even left. I had like 3-4 months. Again, lockdown was in a way very productive. And I gave my GRE because I was mentally prepared. I was like, I don't know this. I don't know. It's scary, like, but yeah, of course. Once I came here, it was like, it was definitely the best experience I've had. It's the best thing that's happened to me because living alone in a different country, doing everything on your own, setting up your rent, bills, your Wi-Fi, everything, it's stressful at first, but once you're through that, you feel like you've accomplish something. You feel so confident about yourself and your abilities. You feel like you feel like you're a whole person, not a kid in college anymore. You're like an adult, you
Yeah.
know. And yeah, no, I remember talking to my friends back in India, and I was like, guys, adulting sucks. I hate cooking my food. I hate it at the beginning. But then once you do it like often enough, you realize, wait a minute, it's not that bad. It's just that we were never raised to, in a
Mhm.
way, it was not incorporated in us. Yeah, of course, I miss that. I mean, having said that, I miss my family. I miss living with my parents. I miss my friends, of course. But no, it brings a lot of self-confidence in you.
And what about, I think, working there? Because I think one thing I definitely would have in mind while going abroad is one big change is the language, right? So here it's consistently Hindi, or as we say, English, right? So we mix Hindi, English, and we make do. But once you move abroad, it's completely English through and through, right? So does that at any point affect, while you're working there, does that affect your professional situation, or even in your day-to-day situation, you have to sort of converse in English, right? Just to be able to interact with anyone. Does that affect any part of your life when you move there, or does it get easy over time?
So it does get easy over time, that's for sure. Like I go back to India for a month, I come back here, and like the first 10-15 minutes of a stand-up, I'm like, I don't understand what they're saying. Like all of that thing that you got used to, it just resets when you go back to India for a long period of time and you're not
Yeah.
used to hearing that accent.
Hmm.
Good thing about Ireland, it's fully English speaking. Like there is Gaelic, which is their natural language, but not many people use it. They are mostly English speaking, so that's a good thing. That's a very good plus point because helps you integrate with the culture here.
Hmm.
But for Amazon particular, there are everyone's an expat mainly. Like some of my closest friends are either French or Polish or Chinese or
Hmm.
yeah, they're from all nationalities. So the Irish people in the office also integrate with them. So it's a very good inclusive culture. But yeah, having said that, of course, English does sometimes pose gap because you can't really relate and gel with someone
Mhm.
without talking in your mother tongue.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
even if you're used to it, like you're drunk, it's like 1 a.m., you do not want to speak English. You don't even want to understand English.
Yeah.
You're just like, no, please. I can't. And sometimes it's like you don't even get the accents. If it's super loud and everything, you're just like, ha ha ha, okay, smiling and nodding. So yeah,
Yeah.
that's definitely one issue, but I think it's not as bad as you'd think.
Hmm.
It's okay. Like I have, like you have Indian friends, you have friends you can speak Hindi to, and you speak on like I maintain touch with my friends back home and my family. So as long as there's a balance, I think it's fine.
So I think one big point, right, which everyone has to sort of factor in is how do you go there and sort of gel in with the people, right? Some people might be extrovert or somewhere in the middle, right? 50-50%. They might be ambiverts, that's fine. But for someone who might be a bit more introverted, right? Any suggestion you would give to if someone is going abroad, how do you build your circle? How do you open up yourself so that, you fit in eventually and then you can carry on like anyone else there?
So yeah, for introverts, if you're introverted or if you're not as comfortable, also when the language is not something you are used to yet, of course it's difficult. And number one tip would be join an activity. Like
Hmm.
most of my friends I made through activities, like go play badminton, go join badminton clubs, or join rock climbing clubs, or clubs which are kayaking or anything, hiking clubs. So there are a lot of meetup events here that happen, and you do meet a lot of very nice people there. And especially the issue happens when you move abroad for a job, because if you move for a master's, you still have friends while
Yeah.
studying.
Yeah.
It's when you move directly for a job, you do feel that. okay, I need to make friends, I kind of have to. So if you join activities that you actually enjoy, you'll meet like-minded people there, and there you would feel less need to extroverted because it's your safe space. Like, you've done that activity, you've joined that hobby, you like that anyway. So if you're in a safe space, you'll organically make friends. So two of my closest friends are super introverted, and we met through hiking.
Okay,
Like,
great. So what about Dublin as a place? Because typically, right, where people would like to go think about going is your standard destinations. You have your America, then you have London, and a couple of people think about, okay, maybe going to Australia. But Dublin doesn't come to your mind. So what would you say to someone who is considering, moving abroad for an opportunity?
so again, it depends on the motivation you have for moving abroad. Like here, to be very honest, even with the best of jobs, you won't save as much money as you'd save in India or in the US.
Okay.
But here you have that, like, I came here for an adventure.
Okay.
I was like, I want to have an adventure. I want to travel in Europe. I want to see how the European lifestyle is, and it's beautiful here in the summer. And I love that about the city. It's the people are very nice. The culture is very polite. There's like no one who's gonna be like pushing past you in a, like in the New York style thing. It's people will apologize 5 times even if you pushed past them. It's like that. Which I was like, ah, and it's super safe. I love that Dublin is so safe. I am out at 2 a.m. Um, and it's fine. I just go for a walk in the night, and like of course there are some spots that are a bit dodgy that I wouldn't go, but most of it is super safe. So I feel like it depends on your motivations to go. But yeah, fair warning, the weather here is no. If it's sunny, I love Dublin. If but it's not sunny most of the time, so it's rainy and it's cold. So fair warning.
Got it. So now I think let's talk about the part where you have been in Dublin for, I guess, 2 to 3 years, right?
Hmm.
Okay. So we briefly discussed that this will sort of open you up to getting a PR there. And just wanted to understand now, again, that's another safety net that you will be able to create for yourself, right? And I'm assuming a Europe visa will, a Europe passport will actually help you with a lot of things. So would love to know, that side of the decision for you.
Yeah. So in Ireland, if you come as an engineer here, you within 2 years you get your within 2 years of getting a critical skills employment permit, you get a stamp for. And a stamp for means that you're not connected to your employer in any way. Like, you don't need a sponsorship to work. So right now I have stamp for. That means I can work for any company. Say I want to join a startup, easy. Like, I can just join, and I don't need them to sponsor my visa. I already have stamp for. And then after having stamp 4, which you get in like 2.5 years almost, within 5 years of being in the country, with some stipulations, of course, if you have a job for 5 years, you are eligible for citizenship, which gives you a passport.
Mhm.
And an Irish passport is very strong in terms of what you can do with it.
Mm.
So yeah, I mean, as you said, the opportunities here are endless. It depends on what motivations are. I definitely recommend to at least step out of your comfort zone and try something new, be it in Ireland, be it anywhere else. But yeah, it's definitely something worth, knowing about and taking a look at.
Got it. Would you say that it's relatively safer to take a bet there? Because in India, I think if you are an engineer, 2 years, 3 years down the line, you have good savings. But one problem is that if you go out, try to do a startup, at least in even more so in today's environment, it might be hard because funding is drying up and everything. But another major problem is going back to the same employer, right? Um, Not the best thing, but sometimes people feel this way that you left and you're not sort of welcome. In some scenarios, it happens. What about in Dublin? Have you experienced this sort of a culture, or they are very open to taking you back? Which sort of enables you to take those risks?
Yes, of course. Like even in Amazon, for example, I know three people. Again, they're now L6s and senior engineers and senior managers who left
Mhm.
because they had very fair reasons. They were like, hey, I want to go and explore something outside Amazon. This is the only company I worked for. And then they went, they explored, and then they came back and they were welcome back. So as long as you have a good relationship, it's very normal for people to accept your decisions. Like, say, for example, you can always go be like, hey, I want to join a startup, or I want to do my own thing. I want to have my own startup and see if it works, it works. If it doesn't work, you come back, you get a job. It's very fair in that sense. There
Mm.
is no like, people are allowed to make their choices. They are encouraged to make their own decisions. So in a way, you feel very comfortable and you have that sort of a backup in your head that, okay, the person would understand.
Got it. I think now we can sort of come to the last part of the conversation, which is advising anyone who is right now just getting into college or sitting for placements, or maybe even pondering. They have a lot of offers, probably a few abroad, or maybe they're thinking about applying abroad. The question is, what to do and how to go about it. So any piece of advice for these people about, since from boarding from your journey, how to create those safety nets and then taking the leap.
Yeah, yeah. I'd say to create those safety nets, you already know what you have to do. If you focus on the next step and you focus completely, you give it your everything on the step in hand, on the actual interview in hand, and then you use that motivation to be like, when to go on to your next step. And it's always incremental progress, and any sort of achievement is always incremental. You'll never see someone just go right up to the top. There's always increments to achieving success in a way. So my advice would be focus on the task at hand, and also be aware of your emotions, of what your brain is telling you. Be aware of, okay, I am enough, I am good enough, I am smart enough, I have this already, it's good, and now I want to achieve something more. So that's why I'm giving the next interview. And I'd say just keep working hard. That's and hope for the best, because you have to have hope. There will be challenges for sure, but as long as there's hope, you will achieve success.
Awesome. Cool. I think on that positive note, we'll end the podcast. So thanks a lot, Prashansa. I think your journey is very, very inspiring. And I'm sure it will inspire many others. So thank you so much for taking out your time and joining us on this podcast.
Thanks. Hope it helps.